Hey everyone, this is Corey from the Little Bit Different podcast. I'm super excited for this week's episode where I talk about what it's like being single and having relationships while traveling the world and building an online business. So it's a personal one. I'm talking about things that normally I don't talk about, but I'm doing it in the spirit of sharing and demonstrating what it's like to live life a little bit differently on my terms and to be comfortable with that. So sending all of my love. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this week's episode. Hello world. Welcome to another episode of a Little Bit Different podcast with your host, Corey Sterling. I hope wherever you're hearing this, everything is going wonderful in your life and that you're feeling amazing. I'm super excited to chat about this week's episode. And it's one that I'm sort of continuing on this train of sharing and opening up a little bit about my personal life and what it's really like to have an online business and travel the world and, visit countries and just have this sort of digital nomad, although I don't like the moniker, this digital nomad lifestyle. And I think it's important to talk about relationships and what it's like having romantic relationships and connections in a lifestyle that does not necessarily facilitate the traditional means of growing love as we see it and as society sees it and as it represents everything. Basically, it's contrary to everything that they tell us, right? If you look at Hollywood and you look at society, they're always telling us and always saying to us that, it's important to be married, it's important to have a long-term relationship, and real love is something that happens when you spend a lot of time together and you really build and someone really, really knows the deepest parts of you. And I'm going to do something different, and I am different, and that's why this podcast is called A Little Bit Different Podcast. And I'm going to talk about what it looks like to live a single lifestyle. And I'm going to put my hand up just like this and hey, it's me. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what it looks like to be single and to be single for a long period of time and how it's different. And it's not just about being single, but it's also about being single and how relationships are different when you are traveling the world and when you're constantly on the go. And I have 5 days in Puerto Escondido and okay, maybe I meet someone, maybe I don't, but if I do, what does it look like? And how is that different from my friends who are all married and my parents who are married and my sister who's married and mostly everyone who I grew up with who's married and doing the same things. So the intention of the podcast today is to take some time to talk a little bit about what it's like being single, traveling the world and having different types of relationships, and how it's very different to the mainstream of society and what society tells us. And if you just think if there was a Hollywood movie, someone please show me or tell me the Hollywood movie where there's the guy who lives out of a backpack and just goes to different countries in the world and learns different languages and does different things and doesn't end up meeting someone and spending the rest of his life with that person, and instead has a beautiful journey on his own and is open to having a beautiful journey on his own. And yeah, I don't think that would sell so well. I think in Hollywood it'd have to be that he journeyed and he looked and he tried and it didn't work, and then in the end he found someone and everything was realized and he realized his true life purpose. So the story of my life is a little bit different, and that's why I take an opportunity to share it. The one thing that is absolutely important for me when I'm talking about relationships in this context, relationships do not have to be physical. A lot of the times they're just emotional. It's about connecting with someone. A lot of the times they are romantic relationships. Sometimes it's one night, sometimes it's 3 nights, sometimes it's 3 weeks, sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's 3 months. There's no particular formula, but essentially what I'm talking about here is engaging in relationships where the goal is not building a life together. And the realization that, okay, we met while we're traveling and we're not going to be in the same place for very long, and life may not permit us to be able to continue together in whatever it is that we're doing, but that we're going to enjoy being here right now for the moment and letting it be whatever it is. The most important thing is the golden rule, and this is really, really important. The golden rule is you always leave people better than you find them. So that means not being disrespectful. It means not being misleading. It means always telling the truth. And it means being sensitive to where someone may be in their life and how they may be impacted by the relationship that you have with them. And if you realize that someone wants something different than what you want, you do not continue to build anything with that person or lead someone on to try to get something selfishly. So that's something that's really, really important to me that has to be said, and I'm very happy that I said it. So the first part of talking about this is just I want to give the buffet analogy, because I think for me it's really important, and it's not the most poetic, beautiful analogy that exists around relationships and traveling and being single, but it's something that makes sense to me. So for me, when I think about food, my relationship is food is different than many other people that I know, right? So I'm sure maybe this is you, or maybe you can think of someone who you know where when they think about food, maybe it's very nostalgic, maybe it's very familial, maybe it's very cultural. And the things that you eat and how you eat and the way you eat it will be related to whatever personal experiences you've had along the way. And for me, I look at food simply as fuel that I'm putting in my body. So I want my body to feel a certain way. I want my body to look a certain way. And I realize that the biggest influence to have my body feel and look a certain way is what I'm putting in my body. And so for me, I'm very, 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 very happy eating scrambled eggs, chicken breast, having green juices, having beetroot and carrot juices, eating oatmeal with honey and goji berries and chia seeds and blueberries and peanut butter and bananas. And I'm cool. I'm good. There's nothing missing in my life. There's not one day when I eat this way that I go to sleep and I think, oh man, I really wish I had that hot dog. Give me some of that hot dog. That never comes up for me. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. And most importantly, I'm personally fulfilled and satisfied and happy with my relationship with food. Other people, they would detest doing that. They really wouldn't want to do that because they love pizza. I want pizza. They want pizza. They want whatever they want, and I don't care what anybody else puts in their body. Okay? And in the same way, what I want to say in connecting this to relationships and being single and standing up for being single, because not a lot of people talk about it and not a lot of people do it. My relationship with being single is that I'm very satisfied. I love my life. I love my lifestyle. I love my freedom. I love the ways that I get to have fun. And frankly put, I love that I get to most of the time do what I want when I want to do it. Now, is it possible that I'll find a partner where all of those things can still exist? For sure. But for the time being, that's not how it is, and it hasn't happened that particular way. Now, the reason why I don't care about the fact that every single person that all of my friends who I grew up with, all of my close friends, everyone I grew up with, everyone in my family, and most of my very good friends are in very long-term committed deep relationships and in marriages. Those are decisions that they made, and I have to trust that they made those decisions in their best interest. And that's all that I can do. And this is for all of us, for anyone who's listening. It's okay to do something different so long that it's in alignment with who you are and what it is that you want to create in your life. And now I'm 38 years old. When I was younger, I had some insecurities about this. And I can even say that I also felt guilty at times about being so happy being on my own and being satisfied being on my own. And definitely when it just like all of my friends are getting married or just in long-term relationships or getting, building that whole process. Definitely there was a point for me where I questioned myself and I thought like, oh, is there something wrong with me? So there definitely was a point in my life where I see everyone doing the same thing in the same way. And I questioned myself and I felt guilty for being really happy and satisfied on my own. And took some time to get comfortable in my own skin. And part of the process is me sharing it as well with others to let people know, because I would hate for there to be someone out there who, and this can relate to being single, or this can relate to anything else in your life, but I would hate for you to know that you feel really, really good doing something and that it's really in alignment with who you are and what you want to create, and that you don't do it because you're afraid of what other people will think, or you don't do it because you're afraid to be different. And part of why I record all of this and take time to do this is because I want to encourage everyone to be different and just to be themselves ultimately at the end of the day. So it took some time for me to get comfortable with this process of being comfortable being single and really, really loving it. And then, okay, like let's talk about what do relationships look like when you're traveling around the world and when you're constantly on the go. And again, like I said in the beginning, the important thing to know is like it doesn't have to look any particular way. This isn't about physical connection. This is about romantic connection and what it's like having romantic relationships and meeting different people when you have a nomadic lifestyle or when you're constantly moving around. And I'm obviously a big advocate for it because I've had the most wonderful experiences with it. And the reason why it's been something that's so powerful for me is because I am a very curious person. So the biggest distinction between whether, if you're traveling and you're meeting a lot of different people and having a lot of different experiences together versus if you're building something really, really deep with one person and you're sharing a life and you're creating a life and you're doing all of these things together, maybe it's possible that someone can be really, really curious about the same person over and over again. And I think it's a very personal question. For me, that hasn't always been the biggest draw in my life. It's not something that I've been attracted to. What I have been attracted to is being in a different place, meeting someone new, and just, again, spending one night or 3 nights or a week or 3 weeks or 1 month or 3 months or however long it is, and just like learning about that person and their life. And it's so cool when you get to learn more and more about different people. And obviously when it's a romantic connection, it's different than the connection that you have with friends. And when it's a romantic connection, you share different things, you are vulnerable in different ways. And for me, it's just always been so cool to be able to learn about other people's lives and other people's experiences. And I've always been very, very drawn to that. And I love the possibility of going to a new place and not knowing who I'm going to meet, and then having a wonderful connection and creating a lifelong friendship, and learning about someone and having shared experiences with someone, and the beauty of being present because you know that it's not always going to last. It's so different. Like yesterday I woke up and I just thought, how would I behave and how would I act if today was my last day being alive? And I took that into everything that I did for my work. Like I was on a call with members of my team and I just thought, Corey, how would you show up if this was the last time that you were ever talking to this person? And I was different. For sure I was different. I was more communicative. I was more open. I was more loving. And I wasn't just like, oh, it's a Tuesday, so now we're going to do this. I was like, wow, it's so great. Thank you so much for your help. It's so much fun to work together. I really appreciate it. I love working with you. And I think that's nice. And when I talk about being single and having relationships when you're traveling, there is that sense of like, whoa, this is most likely going to be the only time in our lives that we're together. And you're at a particular place in your life and I'm at a particular place in my life. And how cool it is that we get to co-create and be together and share, and most importantly, help each other on our respective journeys. This is a different way of looking at connection. It's different because most people will think of it of like, oh, like I met this person. Is this person going to be my wife? And I look, if I meet someone and I'm traveling, I'm like, okay, I'm 99% sure this person's not going to be my wife. And what can I learn? And how can I show up? And how can I be authentic? And how can I be myself? And how can we have great shared experiences? I got a photo from a friend of mine in Mexico who I met, and we went out for dinner, and she took a picture on a camera, like an old school camera with film. And she developed the picture and she sent it to me. And it was like, my heart was overflowing. And I just sent a message. I was like, I'm so happy that we have that memory together. And that's really, really beautiful. At least for me, it's personally fulfilling. And it's really, really cool. And so I think that when I'm talking about what this looks like, again, it doesn't have to look a particular way, but we're talking about a shorter term romantic relationship where there's a mutual understanding that probably we're not spending the rest of our lives together, but we are really happy being together now. And the other reason why I absolutely love it and what's so cool about it for me is that I love traveling and meeting a local and being able to have a lovely romantic experience. And there are so many experiences that I've been fortunate to have in my life where I'm traveling by myself with a backpack. I'm in some random country. Maybe I'm in Zambia. Maybe I'm in Thailand. Maybe I'm in Argentina. Maybe I'm in Colombia. Wherever I am, I'm somewhere in the world. And you connect with someone and you feel a connection. And then that person brings you into their world. And they show you what it's like to live in that place. And you get to experience what it's like being a local in that particular place. And for me, I will never stop advocating for that experience. Is it possible to do this in a non-romantic context? Of course it is. They're called friends, right? They're called friends. And it's really cool when you do it with friends. And it's also really cool, and it is something different when you do it. For me, it's with females. Like if there's a female who I meet and we get along really well and it's a safe space and we both feel comfortable and we're both communicating, and she's like, hey, like, why don't I pick you up and I'll take you to my favorite restaurant and I'll show you a little bit about what it's like here. Or let's take a trip this weekend. I want to show you what's going on and what our local culture is like. And I have learned so much about different cultures. I've learned so much about different languages. I've learned so much about the human experience by enjoying these types of experiences and being present to them. And it's something that I think is really, really important. Now, the natural next question is going to be like, what are the drawbacks, right? So for me, the two biggest benefits are that one, there's probably three benefits. One is that it's an alignment with who I am. So like I actually love my life and I love this part of my life. And it's not something that I'm necessarily looking to change, although I'm certainly open to that possibility. Number two is that if you're a curious person, this is a really, really fun and beautiful way to learn more about people. And then also, romantic relationships can be used as a conduit to learn about cultures and places and explore things that you wouldn't otherwise see. And for me, these are all of the benefits. Now, the drawbacks are that, firstly, being single, sometimes I get lonely. I'm definitely a human being. I was born alone. I'm going to die alone. And sometimes I do get lonely. And there are times where I'm lying in my bed at night and I think, wow, it would be so nice to be in the presence of someone who I love and who I care about and who cares about me and that I've built a life with, and we've done all these special magical things, and be able to hold that person and to have that person hold me. So yes, I'm a human being. I get lonely. That happens. With my disposition and my attitude and how I feel, I would say this is probably 20% of the time. So it's much significant. It's less than a quarter of the time that I feel this way, but I definitely do feel this way sometimes. I think another thing that's challenging is sometimes you meet someone and you want to continue to build and you want to continue to grow. And the biggest challenge about constantly being on the move is you're always on the move. And so there are a lot of instances that have happened in my life where I've met someone and I've built a connection and we feel something really, really strong, and we only have 1 week together. And, you know, when the week's up, I don't want the week to end. I want the week to keep going. But, you know, then you make decisions and either you keep going or you don't. And there have been times in my life where I've changed all of my plans to continue to spend time with someone because I thought that it would be a worthwhile investment and I believed in the relationship and I believed in the possibility. And other times where I've just left and, you know, or they've left. Like I've been in a place in Brazil, both of the towns that I've lived in Brazil have a lot of tourists that come in. So it's very common someone comes to visit for a week and you have a beautiful storybook relationship and then they go back to their life and I stay in my life or vice versa. And so I think one of the drawbacks also is that it's sad if you want it to keep going and you're not able to keep it going. And I think one of the other drawbacks as well is that, you know, I'm not building anything with anyone. And I would imagine that it's really, really cool to build something with someone. And it's not lost on me. I'm sure if we look at human fulfillment and reflection on a life lived, probably having a romantic partner for a long period of time is one of the most important things to keep someone going. And having a family, like, okay, I've got dogs. Dogs are really cool. Okay, I love my dogs. But, okay, so it's me and my dog. That's like, I don't have a family. It's tough having not having a family. Sometimes it's tough being alone. I'm very, very comfortable with it. I love doing it. But sometimes it's tough. And I think the more that we give ourselves permission to experience both ends of the spectrum, the easier it is to be fluid and fluctuate between them. And while it is tough not having a family, the flip side of that for me is like, I have ultimate freedom and independence, which is something that I've worked for a long time and something that's really, really important to me. So I just want to wrap this up, and I hope it's been helpful sharing a little bit about what it's like being single and traveling the world and having these types of relationships by just sharing that the most important thing is that whatever you're doing is in alignment with you. And so for me, I'm really clear on how I'm behaving. I'm really intentional about how I'm behaving. And because I'm clear on that, I'm comfortable being single. I've come to peace with it. I'm at terms with it, and it actually is in alignment with who I am and what I want to create. The golden rule is you always leave people better than you find them, full stop. And if the moment that you realize that you're not going to do that, you stop engaging with someone and you just say, hey, I'm sorry, I don't think that this is going to work out between us, or it makes sense to keep going, whatever that looks like, whatever that means. I've said that to women before. I've had women say that to me before. That's just the golden rule with everything we do in life, is you leave people better than you find them. In terms of what it looks like in this context, really what I mean is connections and romantic connections with someone who you know that you're not building a long-term relationship together. That's what I mean by being single and having romantic relationships and traveling. And it's just, hey, we're here at this moment, we're totally present with it, and we're not building something for the long term, but we're both going to be present and enjoy where we are right now. The benefits of it for me are that I'm very, very curious about people. I've learned a lot. I have so many, I'd say 99% of these connections that I've had are people who are very, very dear friends to me still. And even I got an email this morning from one of my friends in Tel Aviv who we had one of these types of connections, and we love each other and we support each other, and we speak 2 times a year for an hour, and she shares about her dreams and what she's creating, and I share about where I'm at, and like we support each other. And it's just something that's so beautiful. So one is that you learn about people and you build a support network in a really beautiful way. Also, you learn about places when you're traveling and someone takes you under their wing and shows you the local experiences, and you get to enjoy all of that. The drawbacks also ultimately are that sometimes I get lonely. I think that I've been in relationships, I've been in longer term relationships, and I've been lonely when I've been in long-term relationships either. So I think loneliness is just part and parcel of being a human being and having experiences and having feelings. That being said, being single gets lonely. I'm not building anything with anyone. I don't have a family outside of myself and my dogs, who I do consider my family. And then also sometimes you wish you had more time. But one of the collateral damages of traveling and always being on the go is that you're always on the go, and that prohibits you from being able to put in roots. But also, that being said, anytime I felt called to continue, I've been able to continue. And the last thing that I'll just say in wrapping everything up and bringing this in for a landing is that life is fluid and life is changing. And am I open to modifying my life as being single? 100% I am. And it has to be worth it. And I have to feel that it's going to be part of my transformation and part of a progression and part of moving towards more of the person I want to be in the life that I want to have. And I won't do it unless it fits that. And I'm really at peace with that. And I'm really cool about that, because the truth is, if you love your life, however you're living it, you could have married your high school sweetheart and you're still married and you love each other, and that's all that I want for everyone, is to be happy and to do things on their terms. And everything that I've shared are my perspectives and philosophies and experiences of having done this for now I'm 19 years, let's say, more or less, the majority of 19 years. This is how I've lived my life. And I'm happy to record this and share this at a point when I love doing it. And am I open to that changing? For sure. Would it be awesome to have a family? For sure. But it's going to happen whenever it does, and it's going to feel right when it does, and I don't have to control any of that. So ultimately, this is about giving yourself permission to live the life that you want, not being afraid to do something different, and also a different perspective on what relationships can look like when you travel. I love you. Whatever it is that you do, please stay different. Peace.